everybody, welcome back to my channel, and please say hello to my little friend the blue fox, who is going to be joining us for the next few videos. New backdrop, new year, whole new outlook on everything, and whole new lease on life in 2018. So welcome to the year of the dog. So here today we are going to be doing a book review. This is in response to my Shooting Stars patron poll for the month of January, and I would like to take a moment to call out my shooting stars over on Patreon. They are Kagamimi, Jennifer, Curran, Rachel, Cheryl, Teresa, Flu, Passiflora 182, Phil, and Vengeance. Thank you guys so much for being my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so much to all of my patrons. This one is just for the shooting stars, but there's a lot more of you out there, and I really appreciate everything that you do. If you don't know what Patreon is, all of the information will be in the description box below. And if you're already on Patreon, welcome to the family. It's a wonderful little creative home we have developed for ourselves over there. So today I want to talk about this book, Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendare Blake. This book has been on my to-read list, also my to-do list, I suppose, for months, possibly years. I've heard of it, I've read about it, I've read about the author. I really wanted to read it. So I was really happy to get to actually read and enjoy this. So let's just jump right in and talk about the back cover for a second. Let's see. It's just your average boy meets girl and girl kills people story. Cass Lowland has inherited an unusual vocation. He kills the dead. So did his father before him until his gruesome murder by a ghost he sought to kill. Now, armed with his father's mysterious and deadly athame, Cass travels the country with his kitchen witch mother and their spirit-sniffing cat. Together they follow legends and local lore, trying to keep up with the murderous dead, keeping pesky things like the future and friends at bay. When they arrive in a new town in search of a ghost the locals call Anna Dressed in Blood, Cass doesn't expect anything outside of the ordinary: track, hunt, kill. What he finds instead is a girl entangled in curses and rage, a ghost like he's never faced before. She still wears the dress she wore on the day of her brutal murder in 1958, once white but now stained red and dripping blood. Since her death, Anna has killed any and every person who has dared to step into the deserted Victorian she used to call home. But she, for whatever reason, spares Cass's life. So that's Anna Dressed in Blood. So, yeah, let's just jump right into the review. I enjoyed this book. It had maybe a few things that I would have liked to have seen differently or what have you, but there were lots of good things here. First of all, this is a standalone novel, which in the young adult world is kind of unusual, especially in the paranormal, supernatural, fantasy bend. There tends to be a lot more series because that's where you get invested in the characters. You want to read more and more. That makes good sense from both a storytelling perspective and a marketing perspective. But this book is a supernatural, and as far as I know, is a standalone. If there are more out there, please do let me know, because I'd be happy to read more about Cass and his adventures killing ghosts. It's kind of the premise there is very sort of a la supernatural, or possibly even, I don't know if anybody out there is an anime fan, but if you ever watched the anime series Bleach, the ghosts in this are treated very much like the Hollows, which is kind of to say if they stick around for too long, or if they're here at all, really, they're here for a bad reason and they're likely to hurt people. So Cass and his father and his grandfather before him and so forth have been tasked with killing these ghosts. So that's an interesting premise. I enjoyed that. The writing is very clean and crisp and sharp, perhaps a little too sharp in some places. I kind of felt like some parts of the book were a little jerky. And it was also a surprise to me, and I have to confess here that I didn't read the back cover perhaps as well as I should have. You know me, I like to go into books knowing as little as possible and just let the story take me where it wants to take me. That's how I roll. I didn't know that Cass was a dude for the first couple of chapters. It was a little confusing to me, but I quickly figured it out, and all the more impressive for it. I love it when people surprise me with characters, and that one did. Not to say that he's not written well, he is. I just, for some reason, assumed that he was a woman, that he was a girl, which does say he's written with a lot of empathy and interest and that kind of thing. So that was good. But again, the writing was a little sharp in places. Things were moved a little jerkily in a couple of places. The plot kind of took some jumps and leaps. There's a lot of death and mayhem and voodoo and witchcraft and spells and oh my gosh, just a ton of different kinds of things in this book. And a lot of the more gruesome elements of it were handled a little lightly, as was the romance. We'll get to that in a second. But the violence was definitely sort of glossed over, I feel, in a few places. Now, this could be for a few reasons. One, it could be because it's a young adult novel and you don't want to dwell on this. It's one thing to put something in there, but maybe just have all the characters be so shocked that they don't even know what to make of it and move along quickly, which I can understand that. But the other thing could be that the main character is Cass, and for 2 or 3 generations now, his whole family has been killing things left, right, and center. So he's used to kind of gruesomeness and violence and mayhem and all of this sort of thing. So seeing someone, say, torn in half may not affect him as deeply or as much as it would the rest of us. Again, I thought that was a little peculiar. There was such drastic violence and then kind of a, oh, it happened, and oh, we're sad, and oh, that's strange, and oh, we need to avenge him, the person who died, but whatever. We saw intestines. Move on. Anyway, and the romance in the book was handled a little like that too. Just kind of, I didn't really feel the connection there, and with it, I felt it more between, say, the couple of humans that were kind of falling in love or falling into like, I guess I should say, than I did with the main character's storyline. Again, this could be because he didn't realize his feelings and everything, and if that's the case, I mean, it is well written in that aspect, because you're sort of going along and it's suddenly like, oh, he realizes he's in love, and I guess, we're realizing it along with him. But, I mean, it also could have been really that this romance between the main character and Anna, the ghost, I mean, it's almost as if it wasn't real romance exactly. It was more like you're infatuated with someone who is so unexpectedly powerful. So it's more like he's just completely focused on this thing that turned out to be different than he anticipated, stronger than he anticipated. There's power here. It's intriguing. There's kind of a, calamity sort of feel to it. He can be kind of a white knight. There's a lot of different elements there that kind of played into the romance that I don't know if I really bought. I think it was more like an infatuation with something that was unexpected and strong and powerful and meaningful, which also makes sense kind of with the character, because he did lose his father. He has been doing this kind of on his own. He's been very self-reliant and independent since he was, say, 7 or 8 years old. So that kind of all tracks. There's also references to Voodoo, the main bad guy, I guess. There's multiple murder storylines going on here, but when you ultimately meet the big bad, thank you, Buffy, he's creepy. Yeah. No arguments there. And so, to that end, I enjoyed that there were these horror elements and these creepy elements and these genuine, suspenseful little moments in this young adult novel. It packed a lot into the few hundred pages that we're talking about here. And again, it's a complete story. I really kept anticipating it to kind of end on some sort of cliffhanger so that we get the 2nd or 3rd or 4th or 5th book. But no, it's like she really tied it all together. She made it fit all into one. It was good, even if I didn't feel like some of the emotional depth that I wanted here and there, or things were a little too sharp, and which could have happened on the editing floor, or could have been intentional. That's just my impression. Your mileage may vary. Overall, it was good. The premise was interesting. The pacing was quick. The characters, even though there were quite a few of them, none of them felt just kind of like stand-in stereotypes. Maybe 1 or 2, but they also served their purpose. So it wasn't just an archetype that was sort of wandering around for just kind of as a space holder. But you really felt like you knew all the main characters in play. They all kind of had their moment. They were all believable. The dialogue was good. Again, if maybe it was a little curt in places, I suppose. It just sort of feels truncated, like, we were trying to move along very quickly. Which is good, but I think I would have taken an extra 100 pages and more meat on the bones than, say, the keeping it shorter and sweeter. But that said, there was no repetition. Nobody did anything utterly stupid, which I really appreciated. You kind of, a lot of times in these books, you have people that just completely blunder around. And I mean, there were a couple of moments when perhaps the characters just didn't really understand what they were doing. But again, it was a learning experience and they didn't repeat their mistakes, which I can appreciate. Smart characters, I can always appreciate. So all that said, I would probably give Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendare Blake, 3.5 top hats. Definitely worth a read. Good, quick, fun little book. It's a good little romp. It's you know, beginning, middle, end, done. You're out. Yeah, and I would definitely read more by her. So all that to say, I can recommend this one to you. Thank you so much for my shooting star patrons and their results of the poll. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you for watching. And for the love of story, I will see you next time.